Welcome to episode 22 of the Busted Buttons Video Game Podcast. And man, we got a fun one today. We've been telling you all for a while that we're going to start talking about franchises more, and in particular, certain games. I guess a game could be on its own. It's not really a franchise. If there isn't one game, it would be a franchise. Anyways, that doesn't matter today because we want to have some fun. We're talking about one game today and only one game, a fantastic game. Super Mario Odyssey. Woo. All podcast long. It's going to be a blast. Well, if you played it. If you haven't played it, you're not going to really like this episode very much.
Probably
I'll probably tell you just to wait till the next one if you haven't.
Might be some spoilers if you haven't played it.
We're going to kind of talk about the gameplay, the story, the kingdoms. Red, you put worlds on the damn outline. It's kingdoms, man. And then also the boss fight. So, like I said, man, I'm excited because, like we told you all, we really want to talk about the games, like in depth.
Absolutely.
And also the franchises. And we haven't had really our lives are busy, so we haven't had a chance to sit down and really just research games as much as we want to. But I said, Red, I want to talk some Super Mario Odyssey. I know Red's excited, so Red, let's go ahead. I'll cook it over to you. I guess we're going to start off with some gameplay. Kind of just go into that and what you thought about it with Super Mario Odyssey.
Well, first and foremost, I have an absolute love-hate relationship with Super Mario Odyssey. I love it because it's one of the best Mario games of all time. It's one of my favorite platforming games of all time. Back in 2017 for our TGPZ Video Game Awards, I actually voted Mario Odyssey as my Game of the Year over Breath of the Wild. That's how much I love it. But I have a little bit of hatred for it. And this is not Mario Odyssey's fault at all. I had collected 877 of the unique 880 moons there's to get in this fucking game. And my Nintendo Switch fucking fried on me. I was pissed. So I will always have an absolute love for Mario Odyssey, but I also, I don't feel sorry for you because you're too damn cheap to buy the Nintendo Switch Online, which we talked about many times. We're not going to go into it today, but if you weren't so cheap and would spend $20, that issue would have never happened. It wouldn't have, but no, in all seriousness, I really do consider Mario Odyssey to be not only one of the best Mario games, but one of the best platformers. And like I said, 2017, it was my favorite game of the year, even over Breath of the Wild, which is saying something. I mean, we're TGPZ. I mean, that's where we started as Zelda, and I still loved Mario Odyssey. But like you said, the gameplay. I have never played a video game that controls as well and is precise and just feels as good to play as Super Mario Odyssey. Like, to me, I think, gameplay when it comes to Mario games is the most important aspect. I mean, there's minimal story, there's minimal, depth, whatever, but the gameplay is what really matters. And I can say hands down, I have never played a game that controls as well as Mario Odyssey does. And that is what really sets it so far up above and beyond, just so many other games for me. I love how smooth it is, how precise it is. Like, just controlling Mario is an absolute joy. And is that something you experienced when you played it?
Definitely. And that's what, we kind of talked about this in the past couple episodes, whichever one it was. Like, we're talking about, can Nintendo compete with, Xbox and PlayStation? And Super Mario Odyssey is a great example of that. Like, Nintendo knows their shit, and they know how to do it. I'm not going to say perfectly, but Super Mario Odyssey and the way that the gameplay controlled was almost as perfect, like you said, as any game that I've ever played. Like, just all the, all the moves that you could do. Like you said, the fluidity, like how just smooth everything was, and all the moves and how smooth those moves were. Some of them were not easy moves. Like, you're throwing a damn cap, you're running, jumping to it, then bouncing off of that cap, and it just feels so natural. So, like, a big nod to Super Mario Odyssey. It didn't get, not that awards matter. It's a game that I don't think got the recognition it deserved. A lot of that was because of Breath of the Wild.
Of course.
Won almost every damn award. So I kind of wish...
Well deserved.
Me being selfish, I kind of wish it would have been released at a later... Not at the time. But I wish nowadays it would have been released at a later day because... Like I said, people love it. A lot of people have played it, but it just doesn't get the recognition sometimes that I think it deserves. But, first of all, Cappy, what a huge innovation in the game, and just a great idea to like use your cap to, you know, first of all, use it as platforming to like jump over areas and do certain moves, which I didn't actually figure out how to do the whole throw his cap and bounce off of it until I was playing through, just like running through today, kind of preparing for this podcast. Didn't learn till today. So I don't know what the hell I was doing, you know, the first 70, I don't know if it took 70 hours to play, but it took a while. But then like just the controlling the enemies, like that was such a great mechanic, and mechanic I really never thought about, but I'm sure it's a mechanic that many people had thought about and really wanted since the first Mario games, like the ability to be these other characters or enemies in the game. We see a lot nowadays, like, you know, people want to be, you know, have the choice of either a male character or a female character, or, you know, play as like, you know, NPCs, even though they're not playable. You know, sometimes they want to play as those non-playable characters, just basically get inside a different type of body. And Mario Odyssey allowed us to do that. And it wasn't like one or two enemies that you could, actually they weren't all enemies. There was some that you could capture, like binoculars that, you know, just helped you, I mean, you know what binoculars
scout
do.
The area.
They help you see farther. So they weren't all enemies, but like, you know, like I said, it wasn't just one or two. Like, you know, it wasn't like a small gimmick. Like there was, I don't know exactly, but I want to say somewhere in the 40s of capture abilities that you could do. Just, they were so unique and they were all so different, and they added really so much to the game. So just really a huge innovation by Nintendo right there on the whole Cappy thing.
It really was. And, you know, like in past Mario games, you know, you could have going all the way back to, I think, Mario Brothers 3 for the original NES. You could have different suits, different outfits that gave you power-ups. Mm-hmm. And I think this, the capture mechanic and every single enemy having, or like I said, not just enemies, but anything you could control, had a different kind of like attack or ability. And I think it really took the concept of wearing the different suits. I mean, you think the Tanuki suit, the frog suit, like all these, the cat suit, like all these classic suits from Mario games. And instead of like you being able to wear those suits, you capture the enemy, and everyone was so perfectly tuned to the level you're in. And that's where Nintendo nails that charm and that level design. Is like, it wasn't just they threw enemies into a level and said, okay, capture them, whatever. No, every single enemy that you could take over, or NPC, like you said, whatever, in a level, like was designed for that level. And it was just amazingly well done. And you hit on this, like the platforming and the jumping that you could do with Cappy. I mean, I love
if you could figure it out, or you were actually playing the fucking game.
And I get like a lot of these moves have been around like all the way back as far as Mario 64. Like you've had the long jump, you've had ground pound, you know, you've had a little bit of the wall jump and the somersaults, all that stuff. That's been there since Mario 64. But I feel like Mario Odyssey took those moves and let you combo them together like so well. It took me a long time to learn a few of the moves, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
But just being able to do like a long jump and then throw the cap, dive to the cap, and jump off of it again. Like it felt so good when you learned how to pull that off. And
I didn't do that one. That was a little bit above my abilities, I guess.
But it didn't necessarily like open up new items, because the game is accessible. The game is an accessible game. There are some of the moons that you had to have some pretty complex, you know, moves to get to. I can tell you, I found 877 of the damn things. But like just the freedom that it gave you to string your moves together and to use not just your own natural jumping, but also then putting Cappy in there. I thought it was like, the capturing enemies might be a one-off thing. I get that, like Nintendo innovates every iteration with all of their games. Mario is no different. But I really hope they bring back like using the cap to jump. Like just being able to throw your cap and jump off of it it opened up so much. And this one isn't really like related to the cap jumping, but like one of my favorite Mario moves, going back all the way back to Mario 64, is just the wall jumping, where you just jump off the walls back and forth, and like doing that to climb like the skyscrapers, you know, anything like that, where you can just wall jump all the way up. It felt so right and so natural. And it's just, I'm gushing about this gameplay, because I do believe it controls, like I said, as good as any game of all time. But, you know, what did you have some of like your favorite enemies or opponents that you like to capture and control? Because controlling Mario was great, but man, taking over some of the enemies was a lot of fun too.
Bullet Bill, first of all. I think it's his name.
Yes.
Is it Bullet Bill? I love taking over that one. The T-Rex, even though it's not been a common enemy in games, how can you not love controlling a T-Rex? And then the one in the Bowser's Kingdom, I forgot the name. I wrote it down.
Pokio.
Yeah, Pokio. That one was a ton of fun. I don't know if I think it was in me actually. But you know, I don't have them all in front of me, which ones you could capture. But yeah, definitely like something like just even the Goomba. Like even though you couldn't do much with the Goomba, it was still cool to be a Goomba. And then in the Wooded Kingdom, you had the Uproots. I thought the Uproots were like just a fantastic idea. And the way they used them for like platforming and then also to fight enemies, like that was just a great idea. So the binoculars, just going straight up in the air. Those were cool. Getting
to look around the entire kingdom. Yeah,
the spark pylons, like where you hit that light bulb, not light bulb, but whatever it's called. But like and that would take you up like a line. You could go to like other buildings or like any other place, not any other place, but to a certain place in that kingdom. Like there were just so many mechanics, that were cool. Like even the worm or the caterpillar or whatever you want to call it in the Lost Kingdom,
Wiggler.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like, there were some that weren't that great, but they were all different. Yeah. So, like, while they weren't great, they did something different, like, in the game. And so that, just added another sense of, I'm kind of using the same words here, uniqueness in the game. So, like I said, when I first saw the trailer and, like, saw them kind of talk, as they revealed more and more, I kind of thought that, like I said, I didn't think there was going to actually be that many. Like, you maybe saw 10 or so before the game came out. And then, man, you got into the game. You're like, damn, there's actually a lot of capture ability. So I kind of said something in mind. Like I said, I can't think. Folks, we did some research, but we're not going to research and know every single damn thing in the game. Nope. But did you have any that like really stood out to you?
Well, you hit a few of my favorites. I mean, the T-Rex, just because of its destructive abilities, like Bullet Bill was a blast. Pokio was so much fun in Bowser's Castle, like just using it to climb like some of the walls and stuff. One of my favorites that you didn't mention, though, was the tank. Sherm is its name. Like, especially in New Donk City, you take over these tanks and it's just fun. Like, there's nothing like controlling a tank and blasting the absolute shit out of every enemy obstacle that you encounter. So I did love the tank. The other one I really loved was the Hammer Brother. Like, because you could just throw tons and tons of hammers. And there were not in a lot of levels, but man, those were the two. But you hit on a few of my favorites. Like, as soon as you came out and said Bullet Bill, T-Rex, Pokio, I'm like, dude, you and I are on the same page on this one.
You also had the Fire Boss too. Like, didn't really do a lot, but that's been an enemy since the very first Mario game. So being able to take over him and like really, not that his perspective is any different, but just like you were inside his body. So not that like it made you like realize how the game, like what he's been feeling since the very first game. I don't know why we're talking about these people like they're real. But anyways, like, just put you in his eyes and like it wasn't a big deal, but it was cool. Another one that I love was the lava bubble in the Luncheon Kingdom.
Those were fun.
Because the Luncheon Kingdom is big. But when you take over that lava bubble and you can go all throughout the lava, the Luncheon Kingdom becomes humongous. So that was some more I thought about while you were talking. I don't know. Could you think of any more that you liked?
Those were the big ones for me. Like the chain chomps, I thought were kind of fun because you could use them to bust through blocks and stuff like that. But they're chained up, so their usefulness is a little bit limited. But those were definitely my favorites. But man, it's hard to talk about the gameplay of Odyssey and not talk about one thing that I thought was an amazing throwback to the old days of Mario. The 2D sections. I loved that you could enter these 2D sections and for the most part, they weren't big areas. They weren't complex areas, but like you get the music change to that that 8-bit music and you go back to side-scrolling Mario. And I absolutely love those sections. I wish there were more of them. Most worlds had a couple of them, but did you enjoy the 2D sections that we got?
Oh, definitely, because it was a throwback, like you said, to the original Mario. And I'm glad they went with that instead of like Mario 3. Yeah, Mario 3 was a great game. There's no way in hell they were going to do Mario 2. But so, yeah, I absolutely loved them because, like you said, first of all, the theme change to that retro, 8-bit sound, absolutely loved that. And just, it was cool. And, I liked it so much because it was just a nod to that first game. It's like, just saying, hey, we see you, we still remember you, we respect you. And, like, that's just... It was not something they had to do. Like, the game would have been great without those 2D sections. And like you said, they weren't very long, but they just, it was just cool. It was just cool. And then when you get to New Donk City and they had that festival, and that
yes.
festival is all 2D, and then you get to that point where you you had the old Donkey Kong arcade
that was
game, Donkey
amazing.
Kong throwing these barrels and stuff.
Yep.
That was just awesome because that was a nod to before the first Super Mario Brothers. Really, that in the Donkey Kong arcade game, that's where Mario started. So, we saw
He was
that.
just Jumpman back then. He wasn't even Mario.
yeah. And then we also had some Mario 64 references. Not as many, but, basically when we get to Mushroom Kingdom, that was a reference. You also had the Mario 64 outfit. I'm not sure if there's any. Was there any more than that you can think of?
Those are the big ones. Like you said, we do unlock Mushroom Kingdom after you beat the game. Like the Mario 64 outfit was nice. That was the original transition to 3D Mario. But beyond that, there weren't a whole lot. But man, I'm glad you mentioned that festival at New Donk City. Like that was one of my absolute favorite moments of this game. Like you do the side scrolling, you get the Donkey Kong, the song that they sing there. It's Jump Up Superstar is the name of it on the soundtrack. And it's just such a fun song and such a fun segment. And the whole time you're doing it, like you literally get that very first Donkey Kong level. And it was such a nostalgic throwback to those of us who kind of, we grew up with video games back in the early mid 80s. I mean, granted, it took us a little longer before we really, understood what was going on.
Yeah.
But, we're not young anymore. So it's like just seeing that throwback. I'm so glad you mentioned that festival at New Donk City. One of my absolute favorite parts of the entire game. But, the gameplay obviously is amazing, but we kind of have to talk a little bit about the story. Even though in a Mario game, there's not much story. Let's be honest. But what did you think of the story that they came up with for Mario Odyssey?
I thought it was a little bit better because, usually it's just, Bowser kidnaps Peach, and that's really it.
Yeah.
And then Mario goes and saves Peach. This one had, the wedding element. So, it had a little bit more story. And like you said, Mario games don't have a lot of story, but that's okay because they never have had a lot of story. That's what we expect from Mario games. When we get a Mario game, we don't expect a great story. We expect great platforming. But I did like that they added a little bit. They had the whole wedding thing. And then Bowser was going between these kingdoms to basically get these items for his wedding. Whether it be cakes, dresses, etc. So, and I don't know that the airship was really much of the story, but I did just love that airship. So
I did too.
That's where a lot of the cutscenes took place. So I guess that's what I'm thinking. But like I said, very simple story. That's how I like my Mario games. But we did have a little bit more of an element with the whole wedding thing going on. So I guess the story, it had a little more purpose. Not that there was a lot of purpose, but it had more purpose other than, hey, Bowser, kidnap Peach, Mario go rescue her, that's the game. So I enjoyed all that. And then you come to the cathedral at the very end on the moon. I thought that was awesome. Like you said, not much to the story, not much to talk about. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but kind of go ahead and give your opinions if you have any more on the story.
I generally agree with you. It was a little more substantial, like you said, than we normally get from a Mario game, which is, that's setting a pretty damn low bar.
Yeah.
But I did like how it gave us an excuse to visit each of the different worlds. Like you said, you go to collect a cake, a dress, a ring, the champagne, but they were all tied to the worlds that you were visiting. So it made sense that you were chasing Bowser and the Broodals. Is that what they're? Yeah, Broodals. Sorry, I had to
Broodals.
Look real quick. I'm like, so it makes sense that you're chasing them because Bowser's trying to get all his wedding gear together and you're following behind him. So I did like that it gave us a little more of an excuse to visit these worlds. Not that we need it in a Mario game. You could just say, hey, here's all the worlds, get the power moons, call it a day. Don't get me wrong. But I did like that the story at least gave us a bare bones reason to go do it. And by Mario standards, like you said, it's a little bit better story.
Yeah.
Then we
Here, I got a question for you because the Broodals were different than the Koopa Troopas, Ludwig and I forgot Stacy might be one of them. I don't know what their names are.
Morton,
but throughout
Iggy.
Mario, we've always in most games. I don't know if they're in every single game, but we've always gotten the Koopa Troopas that are kind of like Bowser's minions or whatever.
Yep.
And so, did you like the Broodals more than the Koopa Troopas, or would you rather have had the Koopa Troopas in the story and in the gameplay?
I'm down for something new. Don't get me wrong. And the fights with the Broodals were actually pretty fun.
Agreed.
But I'm just so used to having the Koopa Troop. And that involves the ones all the way back from Mario 3. Like you said, you got the Morton, the Ludwig, all of them.
Yep.
And it was different. And yeah, fighting rabbits is whatever, but it didn't make a lot of sense to me in terms of, the quote unquote lore of the Mario.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of lore in Mario,
There's not.
let's be honest. But, I'm glad they did something a little different. They're, of course, all their attacks being like hat based made sense with what they were going for with Cappy and everything. But I think they could have done that with more traditional, Mario. Oh, my brain just totally blacked out. Anyway, with more traditional Mario enemies like the Koopa Troopas, instead of going with the whole new Broodals. But, at the same time, it made for fun fights. I enjoyed the boss fights with all of them, but I would have rather seen a little bit more of a throwback to the Koopa Troopa, like you said, the Mortons, the Ludwigs, all of them. So I'm 100%.
We have all these other throwbacks already, so no, why not just keep the Koopa Troopas in there? But like you said, I am kind of a fan of something new. I think I agree with you. I think I would have rather had the Koopa Troopas, but you're not going to sit here and complain that much about Super Mario Odyssey on this episode. But you know what, Story? Nope. Let's get out of the way. We talked about it. We addressed it. We don't need to spend any more time on it. Let's now talk about the kingdoms, not the world's red, the kingdoms.
Sorry, the kingdoms.
Yeah, but let's kind of talk, and this is probably going to take up the majority of the podcast or the rest of the podcast. We might talk about some boss fights and some other things, but I mean, the kingdoms, that's where this game really stood out. And we're going to kind of go through them in order a little bit. But okay, now first of all, the Cap Kingdom. This is the worst starting kingdom or world or level, in my opinion, in any Mario game. Like, I do not. Okay, I understand the concept of Cappy, and I understood the whole concept of the Cap Kingdom and why they put it first. But did you have to make it so black and white and so dark? Like, I don't think of it like when I think of a first Mario. I'm just gonna call it a level for now. Level. That's not what I think about. So. Now, here's the thing. I didn't really have a problem with the kingdom. There wasn't a lot to it, but it's more of a tutorial area. So, there's not going to be a lot of it. Just, that was a bad starting area, in my opinion. Cap Kingdom, what are your opinions?
I'm with you. And to be honest, two of the first three kingdoms, you had the Cap Kingdom, Bonneton, and you had the Sand Kingdom was the third one. And two of the first three kingdoms were boring and kind of dull.
You thought the Sand Kingdom was boring?
I thought it was. It was just like a
disagree on that when we get to that one.
But I really thought they'd come out swinging a little stronger than they did because it's a beautiful new engine. It's a new system with the Switch, and the Mario looks great. The characters look great. Cappy looks great. And then they drop you in this black and white area, and like I said, it's basically a tutorial. I get that, but man, Bonneton was just. I remember getting in there to start the game and being like, "Really? This is what we're dealing with." Thankfully, I'm not going to spend too much time on Bonneton because I'm with you. Yeah. I thought it was ugly, bland, black and white.
The fog was cool. The whole fog mechanic was very cool, though.
The fog mechanic was cool, and like I said, it was a good tutorial. But man, then you get to the Cascade Kingdom second. Oh, Fossil Falls, and that was beautiful. You get the the fossils, obviously Fossil Falls. You get the T-Rex. You get the waterfalls. Cascade Kingdom to me was where the game really started out, and you got to see the beauty of it, put some of those mechanics to good use. What did you think of the Cascade Kingdom?
Just like you said, that should have been the very first one. I understand the reason that they had Cap Kingdom, but you know what? We don't need it. Not everything has to make sense in a Mario game. Don't be on Cascade Falls. When I think Mario, that's kind of what I think of with first levels. And here's something that we saw throughout the entire game. Some of the backdrops, okay, the kingdoms, some of them are big, but for the most part, compared to open world gaming, they were very small. Some of the backdrops in these kingdoms were absolutely spectacular. And Cascade Kingdom is a great example of that. But when you got there and, kind of going off topic, but here's what pisses me off actually about this whole game. I was going through today on my new 4K QLED TV, and oh my God, Cascade Kingdom looks spectacular. So I kind of guess what I'm saying is I wish I would have had a 4K, even though it's only in 1080p. I wish I would have had a 4K because it still makes the game look better. But anyways,
it does.
Getting back to the Cascade Kingdom, throwing you there, the beauty of it, just kind of introducing, Cap Kingdom introduced you to the game, but then the Cascade Kingdom kind of pushed you along farther, then bam, that T-Rex and getting to control that because we saw that very early on. So I'm glad that they gave us the ability to capture him early on. But what are your thoughts on the Cascade Kingdom?
Well, like I said, I mean, I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was like where they unleash you with your powers. Controlling the T-Rex was just amazing. And we saw that, like you said, early on in the trailers. We knew we could do it. I was shocked we got to do it so soon, but it also gave us our another brutal fight. It gave us some of the, the good platforming. And like you said, some of the backgrounds were absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Like just beyond the level, like just looking around at the horizon. Like Cascade Kingdom was one. Another one that really stood out, and obviously we'll get to it eventually, but like the Seaside Kingdom was another one where you look out and it's just like a beautiful, beautiful area beyond where you can go. But I enjoyed Cascade Kingdom. I like the fossils. I like the waterfalls. If you've listened to us enough on this podcast, we love waterfalls. So we're on top of that. But let's get to the one that apparently we're going to disagree a little bit about here. The Sand Kingdom, Toast Arena. I thought it looked, and hey, like I said, I like desert areas in Zelda games, but for some reason, I was not a fan of just the bland red look of Toast Arena, but you apparently liked it, so give me your thoughts on that.
First of all, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, you're sitting here talking about like red bland sand. Yes, that is true. It does have some red bland sand.
Just
but one of the very first things that you hit in that kingdom is an extremely colorful village. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, that village is absolutely beautiful. It's not one of the most colorful things in the game because, man, there was a lot of great colors and just beautiful areas in Super Mario Odyssey. But that village right there, I mean, for me, that broke it up. But overall, I thought Sand Kingdom was an amazing kingdom. It was kind of the second kingdom like we've seen. Technically, yes, it is the third one, but it felt like
tutorial
the second one, which is what we get in like almost every single Mario game. I almost said Zelda right there. We've talked so much Zelda.
That's what we're used to talking about.
I was talking about, but for me, okay, like first of all, the kingdom was huge. It is one of the biggest kingdoms in the game. I believe it has, if not the most power moons, it's up there towards the top. But just first of all, I actually love the red sand because it looked different than like regular sand. Depending on where you're at, but I think most sand's kind of like a light tan or brownish. So it made it look a little bit different. Then you had the colorful village, some great platforming throughout, and then you had the inverted pyramid. I thought the Sand Kingdom, it was huge. It had a lot of power moons. Yes, it was like, it had a solid red color, but it also had a colorful village. You had the inverted pyramid.
I did like the inverted pyramid.
I thought that the kingdom was absolutely fantastic. So, Red, I think you're wrong, but you know what? I do respect your opinion, so I will allow you to talk about that kingdom now.
Well, like I said, I just thought it was just bland right off the bat, even with the village and everything. You were right. The inverted pyramid was awesome. And like the color change when you get in there and it's actually an icy area was a great contrast to the actual like sand of the rest of it. But, all in all, it was just meh for me. But, I got to say the next.
Well, you're wrong.
Hey, it wouldn't be the first time. It would not be the first time. But the next kingdom we got to, though, I think we could both agree was just gorgeous. The Lake Kingdom. Like, you get in there, and I've always loved water levels in the 3D Mario games.
Was it the next kingdom the Wooded Kingdom?
I think you had option. I think you could do either one.
Okay. I think I do remember that. Okay, go ahead.
Well, the next one I went to was the lake because I'm like, hey, water levels in 3D Mario games have always been beautiful. Like, I've loved them all the way going back to Mario 64.
Yep.
So I jumped right into like Lake Lamode is what it's called. I thought it was gorgeous. It was a smaller level, which was kind of a nice change of pace. It had less moons, less of the collectibles. I thought it was beautiful, thought it was gorgeous. What did you think of Lake Lamode?
Okay, first of all, swimming as a Cheep, that was unbelievable. One of the catcher abilities we didn't mention at the very beginning, that one was one of my favorite ones because it was just so much better, obviously, to swim through the water. Like you said, wasn't a lot to the area, wasn't too big. It looked gorgeous. Water levels always look gorgeous in Mario games. The music, it had a fantastic relaxing tone in that globe. I absolutely love that globe that you go down into. And I love that when you get into it, there's no water inside of it. So you can kind of go around as Mario inside of a globe, inside of a lake kingdom. So not a lot to it. Did look beautiful. Was very relaxing. That's really all there is to say about that.
That's really all there is to it.
And then let's go to the next one, the Wooded. See, I'm all messed up because my kingdoms are separate from what yours are. The Wooded Kingdom. Let's go there. that place, we'll probably both agree on this one. That place was absolutely beautiful, and it was so different from any other place that we've been. Like in a Mario game, like first of all, it's inside like it looks like, if you look at the backdrop, it's like an evergreen globe, I guess you would say.
It is. It's if you ever saw the movie Biodome with frickin' Pauly Shore back in the day, it looked like we were in a biodome. Yeah. Is what it looked like.
But I mean, just like going through the forest and getting to this like steam facility or whatever you want to call it. Like, I don't know what it was about that level, but just, I do know what it was. It was all the flowers. Like, the flowers just made that place look beautiful. They were all over the place. Like, there was a lot of forest. Then you had this orange facility, which I think just really stood out in that area. Like, kind of made it pop. And then, like, you all know us, like, and the people, and you assholes on YouTube that always want to talk about, y'all said verticality in, like, 20 different times in this video. We know what we do about 100 cuts. So we don't know what the fuck we say in some of our videos. But anyways, verticality. I love the verticality of the Wooded Kingdom, like going all the way to the top. That is definitely one. And just, like, there was a lot of verticality in this game. But being able to go to the top and just see everything. The Wooded Kingdom, beautiful to me. Absolutely loved it. What are your feelings?
I loved it too. I thought it had a unique look compared to the rest of the game. It was one of the more confusing levels, I thought, though. I got lost in the Wooded Kingdom more, I think, than any other level in the game. And no excuse why. It's probably just on me. But like, I had a hard time like parsing where I was in that level. But some of the platforming in the Wooded Kingdom was as good as it gets in this game. Yeah. Like you said, you can get all the way to the very top of this dome that you're basically in. And like you said, the contrast between like the jungle and then the like the structures was really cool. So the Wooded Kingdom, it gave me some fits because I got turned around a lot in it, but it was a huge level, a very fun level, and which is pretty much the exact opposite of the next level we ran into. Sorry, the next kingdom. And that was the Cloud Kingdom. Which was literally basically just the first fight with Bowser. And I'll be honest, I enjoyed the Bowser fights for the most part in this game. I liked how they incorporated the hats for it. But Cloud Kingdom, like that first fight with Bowser felt, I know it's the first fight with the main boss, but it still felt a little bit too easy. What did you think about fighting Bowser in the Cloud Kingdom?
We didn't need to fight him that early in the game. There's a reason he's the final boss. So why do you think you got to put your final bosses earlier in the game, Skyward Sword? Like, I don't understand it. Well, actually, I guess Demise was the final boss, but Gearhim was throughout the entire game. So to me, there was no reason, like, save Bowser for the final boss fight. We don't need to see him right there. But this is one of the parts of the game that pisses me off. Because there is so much potential with the Cloud Kingdom. Like, ever since Mario 3, when you go up, I don't remember, it's like the 6th or 7th world. When you go up in the clouds and you can see down below the world that you just went through, like, ever since that time, the cloud levels, worlds, kingdoms have been awesome in Mario games. And you took this just beautiful. I mean, okay, the colors were very similar. Like, it's clouds. It's white, basically. But
of course,
you took this place that could have been beautiful. Could have been something, something like Rainbow Road from Mario 64 in a way.
Yes.
And you did almost absolutely nothing with it. If you want to do some shit like that, do with the Lost Kingdom. Like, we never, well, the Lost Kingdom actually kind of is built off Swamp Kingdoms and other, games. But anyways, like, I don't know, just because I always loved the cloud levels in Mario games, and just they didn't capitalize on it. They did hardly anything with it. It was just a stop for Bowser, which we didn't need to do. He's a final boss. Save him to the end. So I love Super Mario Odyssey, but Nintendo, you messed up with the Cloud Kingdom.
I'm with you entirely, and I gotta say, if we keep going at this rate at every single level, we will never make it through this podcast. So let's kind of do a kind of quick hits on the rest of the levels. I just want to tell you a couple of my favorites from here on out. You mentioned the Lost Kingdom. I loved it. I loved how it looked like it was perpetually like sunset. I loved the platforming, like climbing up the mountain that was in it. New Donk City, of course, like just introducing skyscrapers, and we already talked about the festival, of course, was absolutely amazing. But the platforming in New Donk City in the Metro Kingdom, I thought was some of the best in the entire game. Seaside Kingdom was just beautiful. It's like perpetually sunset on the beach. You got the beach, you got the ocean. Absolutely loved it. Ruined Kingdom, you fought a dragon. Boom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so what were some of your favorites, like quick hits throughout the rest of the game before getting into the final fights?
Well, Lost Kingdom, first of all, like there wasn't really a lot to that place, but I absolutely love the colors. Like I said, that was kind of based off the swamp concept that we've seen in other Mario games. So not really a lot to do in that one, but the colors were absolutely beautiful. The sunset backdrop was incredible.
Agreed.
I'm kind of going through mine. The Metro Kingdom. Okay, that's one of the best kingdoms in the game. And
for sure.
From the very first trailer, I think it was. I'm sure they showed that in the first trailer.
They
Like
showed
that
it
was
early,
the one that everybody was talking about. Like, Mario among humans, and then also like in a living city. Like the game's always kind of taking place like in these separate worlds that are like outside. Okay, Mario, he definitely looks like a human, but the game always kind of feels like it's taking place outside like human beings, because you don't see other human beings except for Peach, and well, I don't think Toad's a human being. I guess he's, I'm not gonna get into the technicalities of all that. But it was just cool seeing him in a city, being able to kind of climb the skyscrapers, using the moped to get across gaps. We didn't spend a lot of time with that one, but I just want to say the Metro Kingdom, one of the top kingdoms in the game for me.
It was.
Seaside, oh my gosh. Seaside, probably the most beautiful kingdom in the game. You have the whole bottle tower, whatever you want to call it.
Big old
like
champagne
you had the fountain
glass right in the
shoot
middle of
up
it.
to it. There's a big underwater level. Like so much you could do underwater. Carbonated water. I don't really understand that whole concept, but whatever. But
it was champagne. It was champagne.
But that's probably one of my favorite kingdoms in the game. And then I actually had before the ruin, because I think you went on to the ruin. I had Snow and Luncheon mentioned. They might be a little bit out of order, so let's just go ahead.
No, they're in order. I just kind of skipped them because for me they were a little forgettable. I was just going to the ones that really stood out to me.
We got time to talk about them. I want to talk about all the kingdoms. Let's talk about Snow Kingdom. Not very long, but there was really not, and that was a disappointment because there's been a lot of great Snow Kingdoms in Mario games, and really the only thing that was great about that one was the town below the ground called Chivera Town or something like that.
Chivera,
yeah, like that was cool. And then also the races. I don't have my notes up for this.
Oh, the Grand Prix.
Of course, I skipped up too far. But
Grand Prix
not
was
lots
awesome.
of that one. But I did like the races. Kind of, what's your thoughts on the Snow Kingdom, real quick?
I liked it. Like I was surprised it was the only snow level at the end of the day. I feel like most Mario games have had several, and most of them are bigger. This was a smaller level, but the Bound Bowl Grand Prix was an absolute blast. The second race was way hard, took me many times to beat, but it was one of the more satisfying challenges in the entire game. The Luncheon Kingdom, the next one, I don't have a whole lot to say about. It didn't stand out to me.
Really?
The boss fight I wasn't a big fan of. The whole food theme. I like the lava stuff, like we mentioned a little bit above, like taking control of the fire enemies. Other than that, Luncheon Kingdom didn't do a whole lot for me, but it sounds like you had some thoughts on it.
Yeah, first of all, absolutely love the color combination. Kind of like the whole synth wave or synth feel that I absolutely love from the 80s. So reminded me of that, love it for that reason. But just being able to go around, as we said earlier, like the capture ability of a lava bubble, it made that place humongous. And like you could really go around and experience a lot of stuff. And it was so unique. Like, it's basically, I think the coins were like, I don't remember exactly what they were, but like, you have like vegetables and like that are the different colors. It was just, to me, it was something that we really never seen in a Mario Odyssey or Mario game. We saw in Mario Odyssey, obviously. But I don't know. I wouldn't say I absolutely loved it, but I thought it was very unique. I thought it was very colorful.
It was all
and
food.
I thought it was
that was
very
definitely
unique. So like, I enjoyed the Luncheon Kingdom. Now let's kind of get to another kingdom, the Ruin Kingdom. Man, just like the Cloud Kingdom, missed potential here. Like
I'm with you.
This should have been the Ghost Kingdom. Like, you have those levels in Mario that are the ghost levels. That was this kingdom. You get there, you fight an awesome looking dragon. The fight was fun as hell. The dragon looked awesome, but once again, so much missed potential. What's your feelings?
I'm with you. Like, the dragon fight was a blast. I get that, yes, it was another one of those kind of like filler levels, but man, they could have made like just the ruins looked awesome. That could have been, like you said, the Boo's Mansion. Like we talk about the ghost levels, like Boo's Mansion. This could have been that. This ruined area filled with spirits. Like, it would have been amazing. The dragon fight was absolutely fun, though. Like, I mean, fighting a dragon in any game, I don't give a shit. I'm going to have fun with it. They look awesome.
Yep.
But I'm with you. I thought it was a little bit of a missed opportunity to do more with the ruins, because I just thought they made them look really beautiful. But it did lead us to Bowser's Kingdom. And I gotta say, I was a big fan of like the samurai Japanese aesthetic. Or aesthetic in Bowser's Kingdom. Plus, it was a massive level. It was broken up. You had like first wall, second wall, you know, whatever, like all the front gate. Like the way it was broken up and structured, I thought was just a little more unique than the rest of the worlds. And to me, I thought Bowser's Kingdom there was a really fun and like the visuals, like I said, that Japanese samurai aesthetic to me really set it off. What did you think of Bowser's Kingdom?
You know, I'm still not sure, like, you know, I liked it, but I'm not, it's like, you know, in Bowser's Kingdom or worlds, you always have that lava level.
That's
like,
true.
You know, I did love all the Asian architecture, and obviously that makes sense because it's made by a Japanese company.
Of course.
So, you know, I did like that. I did like all the detail. I did like the culture that they put in there. Even the music had like an Asian sound to it. I've never been there, but you know, it did sound like if I went there, that's what I would expect to kind of hear.
That's what you hear in most Japanese
like the music to
games.
sound like. So, you know, I did like that they put the Asian architecture in it. But then I was like, I also really like that lava stuff. And so, you know, I wish they could have maybe mixed a lava element into it. So, yeah, you're doing something new with the Asian architecture and Asian sound. Love that. But then you also mix in a little bit of what we're used to in Mario games, that little lava element. So, I just think, you know, that would have made it a lot better for me. But like you said, that place is humongous. I've already said it, but the detail, the attention to detail and how much is actually in that kingdom is just...
And the Pokeos, man. Using the Pokeos.
Oh, definitely. The Pokeos were awesome, kind of just using them to climb up walls. One of the best capture abilities in the game. The only thing... Okay, there's also a random water cube that was just like there. I loved it. I just absolutely loved it because, okay, here we are in this Asian architecture. You know what? There actually might... Was there lava in that kingdom?
There wasn't. We finally got lava on the moon approaching Bowser, but we'll get to that in just a second. But yeah, go ahead with your water pond.
But anyways, I love that water cube. The only thing that I didn't like about this kingdom was that we didn't fight Bowser. Like we went through all this, it's Bowser's Kingdom, and then we get to the top and we don't fight Bowser. So that was really my only complaint. I want to say something, people. We usually try to keep our podcast around 45 minutes because that's what we pay for and that's how much we get. But I'm kind of enjoying talking about this. I still got enough beer left over, so we're going to extend this podcast. I don't know how much longer, but just a little bit longer because I want to talk about some of these kingdoms and some of these boss fights. But I was kind of done with Bowser's Kingdom. Do you want to say anything else on that one?
No, I'm good with it. Just the Pokeo to navigate up and down some of the walls I thought was such a fun innovation. We talked earlier how much of a great capture that was.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the lava. You mentioned the lava that wasn't in Bowser's Kingdom. We did get it in the Moon Kingdom. And I remember the first time we go to the moon and being like, oh, it's like Bonneton. It's ugly. It's black and white.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got Earth looking beautiful.